in the water loop.
Welcome to Waterloop, the nonprofit news outlet exploring solutions for sustainability and equity in water. I'm the host, Travis Loop. The Golden State of Reuse, a series exploring the past, present, and future of water recycling across California. This episode is set in Orange County. I visit Irvine Ranch Water District to learn about the origins of Purple Pipe, Orange County Water District to hear about cutting-edge science, and Molten Niguel Water District to discuss the workforce needed for water reuse. The content is a collaboration with Water Reuse California. Before starting the episode, we want to acknowledge the supporters who made this series possible. Thanks to Platinum sponsor CDM Smith, Gold sponsor Sacramento Area Sewer District, Silver sponsor Black and Veatch, and Bronze sponsor Monterey One Water.
From pilot studies to full-scale facilities, CDM Smith helps utilities and industrial leaders navigate complex regulatory, technological, and operational challenges.
Commitment to innovation is a culture that's actually embedded within CDM Smith, and it's something that each and every one of us strives to do to meet the needs of our clients.
CDM Smith is dedicated to strengthening water supply portfolios with sustainable and cost-effective reuse solutions. Learn more at cdmsmith.com/reuse.
I'm here at Irvine Ranch Water District, the origin of the purple pipe, the iconic color used around the world to mark recycled water. It all started here in the 1980s when Irvine Ranch was using recycled water for irrigation projects. I'm really excited to talk to Paul Cook, the general manager, about how the purple pipe began and how it's still making an impact today. We are at the place where purple pipe originated. I'm very excited to be here. Could you tell me that origin story of purple pipe?
By the early 1980s, a lot of the pipes were still made of steel, and we put marker on there to say this is recycled water, not drinking water. Usually if a contractor comes in and excavates in the street, there's a pipe, that must be the drinking water pipe. No, it's not. It's the recycled water pipe, and our recycled water is not treated to a standard appropriate for drinking water purposes. It's treated for uses that are non-drinking water. Totally fine. We have a huge market for that and still do. So the issue of how to identify these pipes became really important. And the other collaborator in that customer service provider relationship was the regulator. So we answered to the health department, and the health department was very concerned that from a health perspective, what if some contractor connected into the wrong pipe? And obviously we were concerned with that as well. So the conversation began about maybe there should be a better process. The evolution of pipes also had grown where plastic pipe had become more prevalent as well. And plastic pipe, unlike steel pipe, you can actually pick your color. It can be a blue plastic pipe or really any color of the rainbow. So the story about how purple came around was amusing. And I've gotten to meet some of these folks who were there at the time in the mid 80s. And basically it was a color that was not used yet. Blue is for drinking water. Green was typically for sewer pipes, and, red for fire flow. And when you get into the industrial uses of water, there's all these other spin-off colors, but purple was kind of unspoken for at that time. So the humorous part of the story was that to make sure that we had all the bases covered, the staff, the engineers who were working with the American Water Works Association was ultimately going to help us propagate the standard out across the country because we had some vision of where this was going. They went to one of the engineers in the district and said, hey, which color stands out to you? This particular engineer was colorblind. So that could happen. A contractor, I've met contractors who are colorblind, and to be different enough for someone, even if they're colorblind, to look at a pipe and go, well, that's not a drinking water pipe. It's not white, it's not blue. That's typically the two colors that are used for drinking water pipes. It would stand out. So it really helped solve that problem of a contractor not knowing any better, pulling up the asphalt and the trench and going, oh, I should not connect into that. That really, again, helped. I think it really helped advance the industry because it really helped assure the drinking water regulation community that this was unidentifiable, not a piece of tape that could get ripped off and not replaced. It was integral into the pipe. So it's a fun little story. AWWA adopted it, became not only a state standard, a national standard, and then it just kept propagating along with the use of non-drinking water, recycled water. It's certainly up and down the state, but then it started coming up in other parts of the country, being an AWWA standard. But of course, leading the way, other nations have adopted it as well. Israel is one country that is huge into water recycling. Australia is another one. And if you go to those countries, really anywhere they're using recycled water, you will most likely see purple pipe.
Again, it's incredible to be at the place where this purple originated. Yeah. I mentioned that every time I go someplace and I see that color, I get excited. So here I am at the home. A big part of that origin story was the need to show contractors, construction, whatever it might be, that, hey, this is recycled water. But it's also crept into, I think, the public awareness around recycled water. Could you talk about how that has happened, why that's significant, why that's important and valuable?
We're not hiding anything. We're not trying to sneak recycled water into the community or anything like that. We're very proud of it. We're so proud of it, being able to identify it, whether you're a parent at a soccer game and you see the purple lid, what's there. Right? It's there.
Everywhere you see the color purple in water infrastructure, it means one thing: recycled water. The use of purple began in the 1980s in Irvine, California, when engineers wanted a clear way to distinguish recycled water from other pipes. The color now stretches across the world through cities in Australia, Israel, Spain, Chile, and more. Today, purple marks a whole network, from underground pipes and pumps to sprinkler heads, irrigation boxes, storage tanks, and do not drink signs in parks and on campuses. But it's more than a color. It's a critical communication tool. Purple makes the unseen visible, helping utilities signal safety, build public trust, and strengthen awareness that recycled water is part of a resilient community. Utilities follow several approved Pantone shades, from lilac to deep violet, but the meaning never changes. Purple means recycled and is a shade of sustainability. As I'm in Orange County, kind of exploring the past of recycled water, visiting you isn't just about the purple pipe, it's about your history using recycled water. How else have you kind of grown that practice over the past few decades?
Every community has come on incrementally. It's essentially grown in kind of blocks of development. And for many years, it was all residential. And then more businesses and other uses came along. But as this development went in, whether it's a residential subdivision or whatever, the streets go in, the utilities go in. So we worked with the developer to put in the drinking water pipe, the sewer pipe, and the recycled water pipe. So not every street has a recycled water pipe because not every home is using recycled water. Recycled water is primarily used by the green belts, golf courses, schoolyards, places like that have large irrigation needs. So it was growing incrementally. And it's also grown from those irrigation purposes, which is still a substantial, maybe 85-90% of the uses that we have for our Title 22 non-drinking water, recycled water. We also now have about 100 buildings that are dual plumbed. And what dual plumb means is, say this building here, our headquarters building, there is a set of pipes coming in for all the drinking water, for the fountains and everything else that we use water for like everybody else. There's also a separate pipe for the recycled water, which we use for flushing the toilets. Other buildings will have pipes coming in for cooling towers. Cooling towers are a very high water user in the aspect of controlling the environment of buildings. I think UC Irvine, actually, we retrofitted one of their facilities in their central plant to include a very, very large pipeline to use recycled water instead of drinking water for their cooling towers. Even so much cutting edge kind of businesses, carpet dyeing, chip manufacturing. It began with these uses for non-drinking water, getting that public acceptance just for not even drinking it, using it for irrigation. Public acceptance is everything. Because we've experienced California a long time ago when the public doesn't accept it.
Well, as we stand here at your headquarters, I noticed, and you've pointed out that you've incorporated this purple color into your logo.
Yeah.
So it's so important to you, and you're communicating that out. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we kind of revamped our logo, as folks do, companies do every once in a while. And we talked to the group that was helping us with that exercise, and the question was, well, what's important to you? It's just one of those ethereal kind of questions. Gee, yeah, but drinking water, our sewage collection, and our water recycling. Those are our three basic services that could be represented by colors.
How well do the people in your community recognize that purple?
Very well. Very well. They very much get it. I live in the community. My neighbors will say things, and they'll recognize the purple pipe, and they'll ask me, "Oh, is that that irrigated with purple pipe or not?" And we even get portions of our community who, perhaps at the time, it wasn't economical to send a pipe. It still costs money to send pipes, and we want to have a large enough usage, a park or whatever, at the end of the line. Some folks are, we want recycled water, and we'll do the math, and we'll show them, hey, it works or it doesn't work. And then we figure out how we're going to pay for it. So they're coming to us saying, we want to use recycled water.
I want something purple in our neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, because they know it's a drought-proof water supply. That's what it's really about.
I'm here at the Orange County Groundwater Replenishment System, the largest advanced treatment process of its kind in the world. Every day, they take 130 million gallons of treated wastewater and turn it into ultra-pure drinking water, helping to safeguard groundwater supplies and the drinking water for millions of people in this region. Orange County isn't just massive, it's pioneering. They've shown how highly treated recycled water can be used to ensure the resilience of groundwater supplies. They've paved the way for communities across California and the world to take this kind of action. I'm going to talk to Mehul Patel about how Orange County became a global leader, and to Megan Plumlee about how the science and innovation that happens here is advancing the field of water reuse. Tell me, kind of looking into the past a little bit here, what were the real drivers for water recycling to start in this area?
Yeah, so there are two drivers. The first driver was we noticed since the 60s, basically, that seawater intrusion was an issue for our groundwater basin. It is a coastal aquifer, so seawater intrusion's pretty common in Southern California. So we knew we had to address that. And then the other thing we knew was that this groundwater aquifer, which, over the years was replenished using locally sourced water, mainly our Santa Ana River. There was some imported water brought in from the Colorado River, but we were noticing that we rely heavily upon storm flows as well. And with the drought cycles we've had, especially recently, and they've become more extreme, we started to realize that we don't have enough locally sourced water or additional sources of water if our traditional sources like the local Santa Ana River and imported water sources are going down not only in quantity, but at times in quality, that we need to figure out another source of water going forward in order to maintain this aquifer sustainability, and also against the backdrop of increasing population in the service area.
Water Factory 21, I think, is kind of one of the iconic steps in Orange County in water recycling history, period.
Right.
Could you talk about that history a little bit?
Yeah, so Water Factory 21 was a treatment facility that preceded the groundwater replenishment system, started in 1975. And what was really unique about it, and why it's still, in a lot of textbooks, even water treatment textbooks, is it's the first municipal scale RO system to treat wastewater. So that was revolutionary at the time. RO has been around since the 60s, but has never been used on large municipal scale projects outside of seawater desalination. So this was the first application of it, and a lot of the operation and maintenance and records from Water Factory 21 went a long way towards establishing RO as one of the main treatment steps for future uses of reclaimed water, especially highly treated recycled water for what we consider today indirect potable reuse and even direct potable reuse.
Sure. And so kind of continuing along that history, when did Water Factory 21 and how did it kind of come to the end of its usefulness and lead to the bigger project that still works today, the replenishment system?
What really drove us was we realized our seawater intrusion barrier, which was what water factory was built to supply was water that we could inject along the coast to keep seawater intrusion out, was woefully undersized for an increasing demand on this aquifer. That the old water factory 21 was sized for 15 million gallons a day, and our hydrogeologists started to conclude that we would need closer to 30 million gallons a day to keep up with future seawater intrusion because of increased pumping from the groundwater. So we realized pretty quickly that we not only need to replace water factory 21, but we need to make it larger. And we probably can't use traditional pretreatment technology because we don't have the space. We're surrounded on 3 sides by homes and the Orange County Sanitation District's wastewater treatment plant on the 4th side. So we started doing some pilot testing very early on in the late 1990s. And we had a person here, Greg Leslie, he's the one who hired me, who was a membrane expert. And he wanted us to try out microfiltration and reverse osmosis. We had reverse osmosis water factory 21, but try another membrane process as a pretreatment. And if it was successful, we could get rid of essentially 4 pretreatment steps that were in the old water factory 21, which would not only save us space, it would probably make us a little more operationally efficient, and hopefully we could do it for the same price or less. So once the pilot testing proved to be successful and we went to demonstration scale testing, we knew that we had a viable concept to go from the old water factory 21 technology to the newer 2 membrane treatment steps followed by disinfection. And we could fit it in the same or essentially the same footprint and maybe go larger. And that's one of the real genesis of the groundwater replenishment system was not only did we need to replace water factory 21 and make it larger, but we were approached by the sanitation district, the Orange County Sanitation District, about they were having the need for potentially building a second ocean outfall or increasing the size of their existing outfall, which is where they discharge their treated secondary effluent. And in order to do that they had budgeted around $200 million. And the 2 general managers got together and said, well, why don't we invest our $200 million that we have set aside into this future treatment facility to replace water factory 21. Now, where we are today, this is, one of the main things that drives a lot of the new reuse projects is there has to be some kind of coordination between whoever's providing the treated wastewater and whoever's providing the advanced water treatment. Sure. Even if it's within the same organization, there's this agreement we have has kind of been a good example of future projects are using to how do you do governance in such a large project, or when you're trying to do this level recycling, you have to have some kind of governance structure up front. Mainly, we did a lot of it on our own, and one of the parts that made it a little bit, a little bit difficult to develop was as you know now, California has formal regulations for indirect potable reuse. Essentially, came out in 2014. There were none at the time. Everything was in draft form. So even if we knew this technology would work, we would have to propose something to the regulators in California for what quality of water are we producing? We want to go beyond tertiary, but how far do we need to go in order to allow for what the project was originally envisioned? Not only injecting along the coast for seawater intrusion, but then surface spreading a portion of it as well. And then eventually being able to directly inject this water right into the principal aquifer with the appropriate travel times that would be mandated by the regulators. But there was no precedent for what level of treatment would be required to do something like that.
And how did that process go of kind of forging new ground on the regulatory front? That's one of the big issues with water recycling is that area. Yeah.
And I have to give the regulators in California a lot of credit. They were very willing to be collaborative with us. They really wanted to work with us to figure out what's a viable solution, what level of treatment's appropriate, what's already existing in what we call Title 22 or the non-potable reuse at the time. And so that went a long way. And then we, as a water district, decided that we want to go above and beyond typical tertiary standards, even for what we surface spread. That way, there's no issue or public perception issues of not providing the best possible treatment. And that went a long way towards the other big success, which is the public outreach portion of the project to avoid any negative public sentiment.
Another one of the key areas is that public acceptance part. And you also mentioned another one that I'm curious about is the economics, right? The ROI, the investment needed, and how a community like yours makes that investment, justifies it, sees the ROI. Could you just kind of expand on that part?
Yeah. So one of the most important parts is the economics of the project. It is an expensive project. Using advanced technology is a high capital cost. So one of the things we really had to do was develop what would be the cost of using this level of treatment and going to such a large scale. The offsetting of the capital cost with the sanitation district's contribution definitely did help the bottom line. But scale was a big part of it. That, going so large, we were hoping that would kind of bring down the unit costs, but it was still a large investment. And so we really had to work closely with both our board and sanitation district's board to project how much, at the end of the day, debt to pay for all of this construction, and how would we meter that out in terms of what we charge for groundwater. We have to recoup all this debt that we're taking on and project that out, and then get buy-in from all our customers that if we raise the rates for groundwater by X amount to help pay for such a large project, in the long run, you'll still be better off because you'll be able to pump more groundwater, which is cheaper and better quality than trying to buy imported water. And so in the long run, your overall costs will remain relatively neutral or cheaper. And going forward, you'll be able to keep pumping the same amount of groundwater you've always had. Whereas if we don't build the project, we'll have to restrict pumping even further, which means these 19 retail water agencies that are our customers, they would have to buy more and more imported water because there really is no other alternative in this service area. It's either groundwater or buy water through the Metropolitan Water District, imported from the Colorado River or the State Water Project.
So I think you last mentioned 70 million gallons. I know you're way above that now. Could you just kind of finish that journey?
Sure, yeah. So one of the things that I think we were at least looking forward was we figured if we're going to build this project at 70 million gallons a day, what if we need more groundwater replenishment in the future? Could we build expandability into the design? And so we decided that, and we got that buy-in from both boards. So the project was always designed for 30 million gallon a day expansions. We had no idea when they would be needed, but we oversized all of the piping, left space so that we could accommodate that in the future. So in 2008, we went online at 70 million gallons per day. And then in 2015, we went online with the first 30 MGD expansion to 100 million gallons per day. And then in 2023, which was just recently, we did what we call our final expansion. And so now we've expanded to 130 million gallons a day. And now there is no more reclaimable treated wastewater being produced in our service area.
So that 130 million gallons a day, how much is going into the ground? How much is going to surface? And how much of then your area's water needs are coming from that recycled water?
Yeah, so our current production of 130 million gallons a day from the groundwater replenishment system, about 30 million gallons a day is injected along the coast for seawater intrusion. About 6 million gallons a day is directly injected into the principal aquifer. Okay. And then the remainder, the large share of it, is surface spread in one of 4 recharge basins or ponds where we can account for the travel time, which is part of the regulations. So a large part of it is going to direct replenishment, the majority of it. Although seawater intrusion's obviously key, but that's not the largest demand. The largest demand is going to replenishment. So the goal of the project is to make 134,000 acre feet a year, which is enough water for about 1 million people based on the usage in our area. So now water from the groundwater replenishment system makes up about 35 to 40% of the water we use to replenish the aquifer each year for the main drinking water source for these 2.5 million people.
You all get so much attention, so many visitors, so many people wanting to learn. Could you just talk about how you've been able to help, especially across the state of California, as water reuse has really spread and especially kind of exploded, I think, over recent years? Just the role you play in helping advance this?
Yeah, so we played a role in helping advance reuse, mainly in that we've always been open and transparent. So when other agencies ask for information, including detailed operating information, costs, we've always been transparent about all of it, the governance. But the main thing is, it was the first large scale reuse and the first one under the new regulation. So we have a history and a track record. So it's to our advantage to offer that information to others who are considering or implementing reuse projects, especially on this scale. That, why start over from scratch when there's information out there? And then a big part of it is outreach. Our goal is to get the message out that indirect potable reuse and potentially direct potable reuse are viable water solutions for Southern California or the rest of the desert Southwest and the rest of the country where it's needed. And we want people to know it's safe. We want people to know exactly what it is.
Behind every drop of recycled water is decades of science. The research that proves purification works, meets health standards, and builds public confidence. In California, that science never stops. State research priorities focus on issues such as PFAS detection, pathogen reduction, and continuous monitoring. Each discovery brings new understanding and sometimes new challenges. The more we can detect, the more we must address. At the Orange County Water District, one of the world's leading reuse laboratories runs thousands of tests each year, studying viruses, microplastics, and emerging contaminants, advancing real-time sensors, and developing predictive models that can anticipate changes before they occur. This science is what makes potable reuse possible. From the lab bench to the treatment plant, research is pushing the limits of what's measurable, treatable, and ultimately drinkable. What is the science that happens here, especially when it relates to water reuse?
Right. Well, first of all, we run a state-of-the-art facility here in terms of purification of water for water reuse. So my R&D team is able to do, studies and investigations that support that. So we're not the ones running the facility, but we're investigating performance and looking at new technologies. I think there's two main areas for our applied research when it comes to our facility for potable reuse. One is the treatment technologies in themselves. So how do we purify the water? And the other is really water quality monitoring. How do we ensure that we're making, this highly purified product that's suitable as a drinking water source? And there's always new advances on both those fronts. And so our R&D team is able to work with startup companies or maybe a university professor, research scientist, or like an engineering firm that might have an applied research group. And we work together, we collaborate to try out new things, new technologies for the treatment side or new technologies for the monitoring side. While a lot of our research starts at the bench, and maybe that's through our partner, like an academic, at a certain point, you need a larger scale to really try things out and have it run in a more representative way. You run into different kinds of challenges at a larger scale. So we do pilot scale testing, which to us means that kind of middle range where it's not a full-scale treatment plant. We can't build a full-scale plant to do our research studies. But if we want to go up in size beyond the bench or laboratory scale, a pilot scale system, maybe a few gallons per minute flow rate might be a typical pilot scale system, or a little smaller, will allow us to have like miniature versions of a full-scale treatment facility. So at a smaller scale in a pilot, we can take a miniaturized version of an ultrafiltration system and study it. We introduce the same water and study it on a smaller scale that way. For example, to try a new type of ultrafiltration membrane, a new type of design or a new type of membrane material, or for example, test the water quality, right? So new types of monitoring systems, or like chemical additives. So for example, we clean those membranes a certain way. We feed in a disinfectant continuously using certain standard procedures, but then someone might have a new idea about an alternative disinfectant, and we're able to try that in a pilot scale system on a smaller scale.
Are there some examples of maybe some innovations that kind of have come about through the science that happens here? Again, especially related to water recycling?
I think since the reverse osmosis process requires a fair amount of energy, it makes it a priority for us in terms of how we can innovate to reduce the amount of energy we're using and therefore the cost and the environmental impact. So some of the work that my research team has done, often with our collaborators who are, for example, like technology developers, is to study different aspects of the RO process to see where we can optimize. You've got the membrane itself, and material scientists are always coming out with new types of membranes. Right now, we're working with a startup company that's evaluating a novel design for a membrane material that's more robust to chemical cleaning. There's also a spacer that's rolled up inside of these RO membrane elements that literally makes a space or a gap between the layers of membrane so that the water has a place to come in and out. And there's a company, for example, that is developing 3D printed spacers where you can try out different designs and see what gets a better performance. There's membrane coatings being developed. So lots of different ways. Also anti-scalants. You can feed in chemicals that act to sort of keep the membrane clean while it's running because it prevents the salts and minerals from precipitating out on the membrane surface. So if we can squeeze a little more efficiency through better materials, better anti-scalants, better spacers, we can really try to dial back the energy demand of our system. Our energy bill monthly is about $2.5 million, so you can see why we'd like to decrease the energy demand of our facility wherever we can.
I'm really curious about science around some of kind of the emerging water quality concerns, things like PFAS, microplastics, pharmaceuticals. There's this host of things out there that we're learning more about in water. Yeah, and what's happening with the science of those kind of contaminants as it comes to water recycling?
We really pay attention to emerging contaminants and those topics in our corner of the water sector, which is potable water reuse, because really we're dealing with an impaired water source, right? It's used water, also called wastewater, from the municipal or sewage treatment plant. So we have an impaired water source. So it is going to have different types of contaminants in it, including the emerging contaminants that are getting more attention in the press or in scientific studies, such as microplastics or PFAS, those types of compounds. Pharmaceuticals, for example, those have been studied for a few decades now. We're still paying attention to it. We're very fortunate that with such an incredible facility that makes such pure water, we actually easily remove all of those compounds through our process. But there's always new groups of compounds that maybe a new type of pesticide or something that comes into the science and into the news. And so we have to quickly, pivot to that group, confirm that our treatment plant is removing it. And sometimes it might be an emerging method to even how do you measure that compound. So we'll partner with universities or laboratories that have started to use that method. And for the most part, we confirm that everything's removed by our facility.
You also have this robust water quality laboratory here. Could you talk about the role of that lab when it comes to water reuse here in Orange County?
Yeah. We have a really high-functioning, sophisticated lab here that we're really proud of at Orange County Water District, our Philip L. Anthony Water Quality Laboratory. And it's an amazing team of chemists working nonstop. They're responsible for processing a ton of samples, measuring hundreds of different compounds. So they not only support my R&D team, because we're able to send in our water samples from our pilot systems and bench scale studies and our partners' studies, but they handle a lot of compliance monitoring and also voluntary monitoring that we do. So for example, they run all the samples from our potable reuse treatment plant to confirm through the stages of treatment that we're getting the removal we expect, and of course meeting all of the regulatory requirements. They also handle samples from our groundwater aquifer. So we're responsible for managing the local groundwater basin that is the primary drinking water supply here. So we have hundreds of monitoring wells and teams of people that go out and collect samples, and they bring the samples to this lab. For example, as part of that, we monitor our seawater intrusion barrier, which is where we pressurize the aquifer by injecting some of the recycled, potable reuse water from this plant. We inject it underground to pressurize it, and that holds the underground seawater back so it doesn't come in, since we're inland pumping a lot of groundwater as drinking water, right? So you don't want to create that draw and bring the seawater inward. So monitoring our barrier is another example of the types of samples they run.
Yeah, I'll just say the idea of pushing back the ocean. that's pretty
Literally
impressive.
Pushing back the ocean every day. Yeah. And if we stopped, it would inch forward quite quickly. So our job's really important.
Okay, pull out your crystal ball a little bit here. I'm curious what you might see in the future as it comes to, the science around water reuse. What's kind of has your curiosity piqued, or what are you hearing about?
One area that we're definitely seeing emerge with full force right now in the water reuse space is the idea of using data science to become more digitalized and make, more data-based decisions. I would say that the artificial intelligence buzz has motivated some of that. And that can be a driver, right, to get interested in data science and digitalization. But I think that's really the foundation that's more important. There's a lot of tools out there that might not have much AI or need it or just a sprinkle of it. It's really about centralizing your data, making it accessible to staff so that you don't have like a system that takes a lot of time. You want the human intelligence to work on the hard problems, right? And streamline your data flows and your data management using machine learning, which would technically be like a type of AI to analyze complex data sets, dashboards that show all of your information about your facility at a glance, bringing on data scientists either through consultants that can be hired for projects or even bringing them on staff at the utility level. There's a lot of conversations happening right now, every day, about how the water sector, including the water reuse space as part of that, can become more efficient, reduce costs, and just make the experience of being at work smoother and easier. Like imagine your smartphone sending you a recommendation if you're an operator that it might be time to go check on a pump and see if it needs maintenance. So those are the kinds of tools we're exploring. Yeah. And in the research team, we're able to pilot those things, just like a treatment technology, but it might be a tool related to data management or visualizing data. Obviously, in those cases, our research scientists need to work closely with our operators and their supervisors, who would be the end users of those types of products.
The future of water reuse doesn't depend only on technology. It depends on people. Operators, engineers, and scientists are essential for running the advanced treatment systems that produce purified water. But in California, new regulations call for the highest levels of operator certification and round-the-clock expertise, even as 1/3 of current operators approach retirement. To meet that workforce demand, a movement is underway. Utilities are looking to collaborate with colleges to create new training pipelines, helping workers earn advanced water treatment certifications and building the next generation of technical and digital skills. Courses in artificial intelligence and data management are emerging as needs alongside traditional engineering and chemistry classes. The future of reuse won't just be built in treatment plants. It will be built in classrooms and laboratories that are shaping a more sophisticated water workforce. As water recycling continues to expand and evolve across California, a skilled workforce is critical. I am here at the Molten Niguel Water District in Orange County, where they have built the Oasis Education Center to engage and inspire water professionals. I'm going to talk with CEO June Kim Lopez about their goals in addressing the workforce gap and helping water recycling to continue on its path. What type of workforce is needed for water reuse? As you look beyond just the numbers that we might need to bring into water, what types of skills and abilities and training, do you think that we're going to need in the very near future?
In order to be successful in water reuse, and especially in the new frontier of innovation and advancements like direct potable reuse, we need several qualities that are absolutely a must. One, they need to be very technically competent. It's a safety issue, it's certification, it's skills, it's training, because it's important that we do this safely and we do this right. We also need people who are creative, because every challenge and problems requires creative solutions. And water reuse, there's different challenges. There's also the public perception, and we want to make sure that the public is understanding of the safety and all the great work that goes into reusing wastewater. And that means we need to be able to communicate and to relate, to identify. We need people who are very dedicated, because sometimes it takes a long time to do these kinds of projects. You have to have stamina. Again, that needs to come from your place of passion. And we need people that are visionary. How can we take this reuse and how can we advance it further? What other types of uses that we are not using right now? How can we collaborate? How can we even learn from those globally and develop those kinds of partnerships? So it requires a very multi-dimensional individuals, and it's exciting because it has so many challenges. We need people that also understand data and technology, because this is how we ensure compliance. This is how we ensure communication and making sure the constant monitoring and safety of water reuse.
Broadly right now, the water sector, like you alluded to, is trying to attract more people for every type of role. And one of the things I hear a lot about is appealing to the next generation and the younger people and the difference they can make. So it just makes me think about water. The idea of recycling water, even for drinking, is probably like a very appealing thing, right? As the water sector tries to pull people in, period.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's intriguing because it's not something that's being done, at least in the United States. It's being done in other parts of the world. But the other part of water reuse and water in general is the innovation side, the technology side, things like AI. And this is what, especially the next generation, are looking for. They want something that's modernized. They want something that is visionary and purposeful. And when it comes to that, reuse checks all the box.
Yeah.
This is a new frontier. There's a lot of room for improvement and growth. There's a lot of room for imagination. And that is sort of the value proposition that I provide when I talk about water, when I talk about water reuse and try to get the next generation excited. This is sort of almost a clean slate for them to walk in at a very critical moment in the history of water reuse. Now that we have the regulations for direct potable reuse, it's a great opportunity to come in and be trained up for those who are already in the industry. But for those who are entering the industry, there's so many different elevations and so many different paths that they could take. And the room for innovation is so vast.
I love that idea that data, digital, tech, AI is emerging now, and rapidly so, and young people and people looking for where they're going to work are looking for that piece. So you have this cool collision of those elements with water recycling. It's like, hey, save the planet and use technology, and here's a place you can do it.
You mentioned earlier about sort of this digitalization and water reuse. I want to share you a story because this was several years ago. And 10 years ago, our agency founded the California Data Collaborative to bring big data solutions to water. Today, we represent 21 million Californians. Early on in our journey, we partnered with Netflix, the movie people, and they helped us out for free because people at Netflix and some of these major corporations are looking to do social good. So we got connected them through another nonprofit that helps to match those who are willing to volunteer their time and expertise to do social good. And so we were matched up with Netflix. And again, this is all part of our data journey. And in 6 months, we were able to access predictive modeling tools that Netflix uses to determine what kind of movies that you're going to like based on you viewing history. And with similar analytics, we were able to use that in 6 months. We evaluated our recycled water usage, and we were getting ready to build a reservoir for storage of recycled water. But using that tool and in partnership with the experts at Netflix, we realized that we didn't have to build that infrastructure because by working and communicating with our customers, we could manage the use and the peaks. And that allowed us to save $20 million, which we could reinvest in something else.
Bring us back to what is happening here at Molten Miguel and what you have in the works to really kind of address these workforce challenges and bring in a bunch of the elements that we've talked about. What do you have underway? What's the future?
Right now, we are partnering with Santiago Community College to develop the certification course for the advanced requirement of direct potable reuse, because in 3 states, California, Nevada, and Arizona, the last count was there's about 30 individuals who have this advanced certification. And we happen to have one of them. And so this individual is working with the college to develop the certification program so that those who are in the industry and who are looking to get into the industry could upskill, and have higher earning and create a workforce that's absolutely necessary in order to do these advanced water reuse projects.
Wow, that's exciting. And I could see in the future how this community college has that course, has the curriculum, can get people that certification, but that one offering won't be enough. Like, it'll probably have to get picked up by other community colleges, by other universities, and it's a chance to replicate.
Another thing that we're working on is developing the first AI course focused on water. And this is something that we're doing in partnership with UC Irvine and CEO Leadership Alliance of Orange County and the California Data Collaborative, because we want to make sure that as an industry, we understand what AI offers, how it can be utilized, optimized, and also how can we use that to better our service and to improve our industry. So that's something that's in the works that hasn't been done before, and we are funded through California Jobs First grant.
So I have heard about this Oasis Water Resource Center that you all have in the works. Please tell me what this is and its connection to water reuse.
Sure. No, we're very excited about the Oasis Water Resources Center. So Molten Miguel's been recycling wastewater for irrigation purposes for more than almost 60 years now. About 25% of our overall water demands have been met with recycled water. And as we look at where we can go with maximizing maximizing wastewater reuse, it really is looking at growing that system or pivoting towards a potable reuse. And given that we've maximized pretty much what we can do from a recycled water standpoint, the best opportunity we have to continue to reuse all the water that comes into our service area is through potable reuse. And so we've implemented and are working towards evaluating a direct potable reuse project called the Oasis Water Resources Center. OASIS stands for Optimized, Adaptive, Sustainable, Integrated Supply. And really it is the first of its kind direct potable reuse in Orange County that is being evaluated. Our plan is to really follow the current regulations that have been laid out by the state, following those treatment train technologies that have been prescribed through that process, and just proving that out through the pilot program.
How would you describe the opportunities that are created by these new regulations that have come out?
With the implementation of direct potable reuse, it really creates a great opportunity to expand our treatment opportunities across the state, really expanding potable reuse and creating not only additional water supply for customers, but additional jobs, additional technologies, advancements that will really help to inform, the opportunities that exist for potable reuse as we continue to expand it, not only in California, but throughout the country. And those regulations are really driving a lot of what we're seeing from a workforce development standpoint, requiring 24/7 monitoring, high-level certification requirements, not only for wastewater operators and water operators, but the integration of those two treatment processes and requiring certifications for them to be certified on both sides of the wastewater and the water side of it. So it really is driving a lot of conversations throughout the industry of how do we make sure that we have workforce in place to be able to implement these types of projects and programs.
Thanks again to the sponsors that made this series possible: CDM Smith, Sacramento Area Sewer District, Black & Veatch, and Monterey One Water. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Golden State of Reuse, a series in collaboration with Water Reuse California. If you want to support Waterloop's ongoing exploration of water solutions, subscribe on YouTube, rate and review the podcast on Spotify and Apple, follow us on social media at The Waterloop, and sign up for email updates at waterloop.org.
You're in the Water Loop. Waterloop, Waterloop, Waterloop.